going to be able to carry over markers and marker sets. In the past, the only way to get markers from one monitor to another was through a backup. Now we can actually transfer those through our Ag setup file. We're also going to be able to carry over configuration and equipment. So if you have one monitor in your sprayer and you move that from monitor to monitor and you need to bring in a secondary monitor into your sprayer, rather than having to create that configuration again or remembering how to set up your offsets, we can just carry over that configuration and equipment through this Ag setup file. Okay. All right. So, at the same time of going from monitor to monitor, when you take your information out of SMS, you're also going to use this Ag setup file. It's going to carry all of that information, put it into the Ag setup, and you're going to be able to read it into your Agleader or your Versa display. Okay, so at the beginning of each season, you can clean up all of your SMS, make sure you have all the correct farm names, field names, your boundaries, kick that out into an Ag setup file, put it into your monitor. Yes?
Is that compatible with FarmWorks or no?
I don't know if they're able to do setup files at this point.
Not to my knowledge.
But
it's not something that we're keeping from anybody, but at this point I don't believe any other software can do that. We're kind of, with this step and this new foundation, we're kind of reinventing the wheel a little bit. It's just going to make it more seamless. It's going to synchronize everything. It's going to make your life as an operator, if you're running multiple displays, much easier. So instead of working with 10 different file formats, you're going to be working with 2. And it also brings into some things that Agleader wants to do in the future as far as wireless data transfer. When you're talking vehicle to vehicle, when you're talking vehicle to office. So there's this new foundation is very important moving forward, and it's just going to be very beneficial for guys and girls that are operating more than one display.
All right. Okay, so at the same time, like I mentioned, you can kick this over from the display to display. So if you set up your main display with all your management items, your configurations, your boundaries, guidance, markers, kick that into the Ag setup, and you can kick it over to your additional displays. So just to show that, we've got our Integra here set up with our grower, farm, and field. We've got a boundary loaded in. We kick out an Ag setup file to our USB, take that over to our Versa, read it in, and we're going to have the same information over on the Versa. So say now on the Versa monitor we add a field. It doesn't show that. If you were to add a field on your Versa here, so we have another field in the list, you can then kick out an Ag setup file again and kick that information over to your Integra, and it's only going to add in that one field and the boundary that you created with that. Okay? So, and actually we're going to get to what I just talked about here. So there is conflict resolution. So say you've got grower farms and fields that are named identical in 2 separate displays, and it does realize that, it's going to prompt you with a conflict, and it's going to ask you to resolve that. And the way it's going to show that is through this import screen. So I read an Ag setup file into a secondary monitor here, and I had the same grower named Eric in there, and it realized that, and it's going to prompt me and say, hey, you got a conflict. So to resolve that, all you do is you highlight the name, you press resolve, and then it's going to allow you to rename one of those growers, either the one you're importing or rename the one that's already in the monitor. What we're recommending guys do is rename them. So in this example, I could rename Eric, the one I want to remove, I could rename it Eric Delete or Eric Bad, something to acknowledge that this is the one I'm going to remove from the monitor. And it doesn't matter which one you do. You can either remove the one you're reading in, or you can remove the one that's already there. It's not going to affect the monitor. Okay? Any questions on the Ag setup file? Okay. So the other file type is our Ag data. This is going to replace your ILF file. It's going to contain equipment used in the configuration, your products, boundaries, marks log, guidance patterns. Everything is going to be contained in the Ag data. Ag data is what you're going to read into SMS to get that information onto your computer. Okay? So, Ag data is going to be used when you're exporting that information from the monitor. You're going to kick out an Ag data file, read that into SMS, and you're going to have all your information on your computer at that point. Okay, it's going to contain your operation, markers, boundary, and guidance. Legacy files. So, files we used in the past with the Edge, the Insight, with the Integra before 3.0, most of them are going to be supported. We're still going to be able to use our pattern files. So pattern files you used on 2.8 or an Insight, we can carry over to the Integra or the Versa. IBY files you can still use, so you can kick out an IBY file from SMS still, read that into your monitor. IRXs are still supported, shape files are still supported for prescriptions. Reference files will not be supported. So if you have a planting map you created on 2.8 and you upgrade to 3.0, that reference file isn't going to be able to be supported, but we can kick out an ag setup file with that same variety map and read it into the Integra. So you won't be importing individual reference files, you're going to be kicking out ag setup files.
There was really no reason for Agleader to keep doing the reference file because the reference file is basically contained within the ag setup file.
Exactly.
So there's no reason to deal with multiple files again. I mean, you're still dealing with the ag setup file no matter what you're exporting out to the display or display to display.
Yep. So shape files will still be utilized for your prescriptions. The other two that are not supported are going to be your IBK, which are your backups previous to 3.0. A backup after 3.0 is going to be an IBK2. So a backup previous to 3.0 cannot be read in to 3.0 and utilized on the Integra or the Versa. Okay. MSF files also aren't going to be supported because we're replacing that with our ag setup file. Okay. All right. So best time to move to foundation. J&S are going to be doing most of this for you guys anyway, so you're really not going to have to worry about this. You guys don't have access to the firmware on the website anyway. J&S has to get that for you and upgrade that for you. That way you guys are set up correctly. They're going to do all that for you guys. But obviously we just want to cover you don't want to do this in the middle of an operation. If you're in the middle of your planting season or your harvest season, you don't want to upgrade that monitor in the middle because your information is not going to be compatible. Obviously, your reference file or legacy file types aren't going to be compatible with 3.0. All of them aren't. So we don't, excuse me. So we don't want to do that in the middle of an operation. And I'm sure J&S will take care of that for you appropriately anyway. All right. So when you get 3.0 on your display, it's going to automatically create a backup of your file of your monitor in case something does happen. It's going to kick out all of your ILF files before it goes through the upgrade process. So you will have all that information in case something does go wrong. Okay, so all that information will be there. As far as your configurations, your vehicles, your implements, J&S is going to go through writing all that information down because that does get removed from the monitor in the upgrade process. The foundation change is so drastic, we can't convert all that information over to the firmware upgrade, so we have to start from scratch when we get to 3.0.
One thing I would really want to stress here, guys, this is not going to happen every time you update your display.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I don't want you walking out of here today thinking, you know, this is a headache every time I update the display. Updates are very, very necessary if you want continued enhancements, continued features. Maybe even there's a, you know, we obviously get all kinds of recommendations for you guys, from you guys and from existing dealers. So this is a one-time deal to reset our foundation to build into the future. So updating is generally a very, very good idea. It's just this, with this very specific 3.0 version, J&S is going to handle that. Like I said, there's some things that Agleader is working on in the future where this will be important.
Okay, and this is just showing a warning that's going to happen on your Integra before the upgrade, explaining everything that is going to happen during the upgrade process and where you're going to go from there. All right, so some of your preseason preparation, before you upgrade, you do want to make sure you copy your log files, even though the monitor is going to do it for you. Create a backup just in case something does happen before you upgrade. Delete previous seasons as well. Once you're on 3.0, recreate any configurations and products that you need. Go through your grower, farm, and field. Make sure you have all of your growers, your farms, and your fields appropriately before you get into your season preparation.